sera la Galleria360 nel mese di dicembre rinnova le proprie sale espositive organizzando una nuova rassegna artistica dal titolo Christmas Expo. Gli artisti della mostra contemporanea Christmas Expo sono tutti artisti che attraverso le loro opere non tentano avventure d'avanguardia, ma uniscono sempre l'oggetto all'emozione con estrema semplicità e purezza d'animo, intessendo in questo modo impliciti dialoghi che ci parlano sottilmente di quel rito, del mistero del Natale. Un mistero della rinascita che si rinnova ogni anno e che in realtà altri non è che la metafora di quella riscoperta della nostra più profonda interiorità e spiritualità. Ora sono in compagnia di uno degli artisti che partecipano alla mostra Christmas Expo, che è Andrew Galindo, di cui siamo molto lieti di essere in compagnia. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So can I ask you some question about your artistic research? No.
Thank you so much for having me.
So when did you begin to dedicate yourself to art? Is there any anecdote you want to tell us about you?
Yes, actually, the most... Okay, first of all, there's really no moment in my life when I don't remember art being inextricably a part of me. I was maybe my oldest and my first memory is when I was 3 or 4, 3 or 4 years old. And I remember having pencils and crayons on small pads that my father probably brought from work or something. And I remember just having this urgency to make this little drawing, whatever it was, I don't remember it exactly, but I remember the urgency to come off the page, to come to life in some way. And I don't think that's really changed. I was very blessed to have that I came from a family that were my parents, my aunt, who actually put the first pencil in my hand, were so supportive. I mean, they just let me go with it. But I don't want to fast forward to a more current memory, which refers to Aspects, the series that I'm working on now. I was sitting I just started it. There was no name. It was just a feeling that I needed to let go. No expectations, no preconceptions. It was, it didn't matter about other opinions, about what came before, about money or anything. It wasn't about that. It was about, I have to do this. I have to be honest. Maybe that was the one guideline. That's got to be honest, direct. And I guess I'm my most accessible reference point. So it's not really about my face, my features, or it's just, I'm there, so I want to use myself. But the work itself is not really, I guess you could see them as self-portraits, but it's not about the physiology of my face or, making it exactly like what something looks like externally. Rather, a rendering of something internal, a moment like an aspect of of a state of mind, an emotion, moments that are very ephemeral. They come and go very quickly, and it could be very isolating. Psychological states of mind, moods, but they are isolating, but at the same time, they're comforting because it binds us as people because everyone goes through it. Everyone goes through their own personal things and they feel isolated at the moment. But if you look inside at yourself, one of the pieces that I did is called Looking Inside Out. So I think in order to truly understand what's going on in the world, you have to understand what's going on within yourself. And I hope that some of them come close to that. I'm going to keep trying. I think the series itself is young, and I see it as, I don't like the word cohesive because it implies that everything has to be mannered or look the same or have a similar, but I think in this way, even though it's not an intention of self-portraiture, this is in each one in some way, on some level, but so it's cohesive on my terms. So that's hopefully sometimes it works, but eventually I'll get there. But I don't expect. Beethoven said something in a letter to an 8-year-old girl. He said, an artist, maybe a true artist, doesn't ever think he's an artist. The word mastery is very dangerous. It's very dangerous to think that you are somewhere because the journey ends. A punctuation is implied, and that means that you're there, you can sit back, and I'm there, I'm done. I don't want to be done. I want to keep going. I never want to stop. For being an artist, you're always restless. You're always looking, and then looking more, and eventually hope day I'll be able to say, or know what it feels like to see, or to even be an artist. That's a big term, and it's thrown around. It's said too easily, too loosely. So I'm working. That's all I can say. You don't work, nothing's going to happen. You stand still.
Yes. But I think today it is a gift to succeed, to be honest, as you said, like you. So let's go on with talking about your technique. You choose as your favorite tool of expression the drawing. Why?
Well, I started to draw. I guess I've always been more of a drawer than a painter. I paint, of course, as well, but I think sometimes I would call them finger paintings because I don't think. To me, the most direct I've found over the years is the most sensitive way to just approach a piece, whether it's on paper, and I love paper. I made some handmade paper for this series, and there's just a quality and integrity, a very special character about paper. I love it. And you can go again, you could either, whatever surface you're working on, you could let it lead you, or you can go against it. Either way, it has its own very unique character. So that's part of it. So I think that as far as like a pencil or what materials I use, it doesn't matter. It was the first piece that I did in the series. I didn't know it was a series. I didn't know what it was going to come, but I said, it's got to let go. This happens, I start thinking, that's it, it's over. If I lead with my instinct as opposed to thinking about it, I start expecting things, I start having preconceptions and notions, but I've always drawn. So to be more direct with the work, I started what I call, I don't know what else to call them, inspired by the way children finger paint. You ever watch a child work? It's beautiful. They don't care what anybody thinks, they're having fun. It's honest, it's just pure. One day I'd like to get that. I like to learn more from children than from adults who are doing the same thing for a reason, one reason or another. They get safe, they get comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be uncomfortable for me to keep going forward to the next piece, so to speak. So what you liked, you thought it was funny. I wrote somewhere that whether it's powdered pigments, powdered graphite, chunks of graphite, pencil, whatever. Yes, that's always been a part of me. I've been more of a drawer. It's about form and things like that, but it's there. If I spill coffee and it's there, use it. It's a happy accident. Use it, right? Whatever happens.
Yes, because it's life.
It's life. It's there, and you could say, what's there with that spill of coffee? How can I use that to make it? The accident gave me a new tool. So I think that's interesting.
Yes. Okay. Now, all these artworks are part of a series aspects, but in truth, your research is not focalized about a research of a fidelity, a physiognomic fidelity. So, can you explain about the concept, the main concept of this research?
I think the word concept is my enemy. I start to think this is what gets in my way. I start to think it's dangerous for me to think. It's like it blocks me. But if I just sort of say, it's not important. The product is not important. What's important is the journey that I take each time I approach a new aspect. Sometimes I'll use a reference of a blurry photograph of myself, not clear or something like that. I say, what was going on in me at the moment? And that's an aspect. If I truly am honest with that moment, not guard, not be as the opposite of vain, whatever that is, be as raw as possible, I think that comes across. And that's where people can relate to that. I hope I'm being honest. I hope that comes through, if nothing else. Technique is something that you learn whenever you are making art. Maybe you start with technique. It's a tool. It's you put it in your pocket. You forget about it. Yes. It comes out naturally when you're working. You don't forget anything. You know, you just look for more because it's a different kind of reality. I try to draw. I try to paint something that looks outwardly real. Okay, that's a type of realism, but I think the most important realism, for anybody else is different. Everybody's journey is different. But to me, a more interesting reality or realism is the realism that's going on inside. That can't be seen. Mm-hmm. Language is limited. Even there's no such thing as real, as making something look real or whatever. Everything art as an interpretation of reality. But I think the more interesting realization is what I can say with being honest with with myself. And I can be as brutal and as raw as possible because if I'm not honest with myself, who's going to care? And these states or these aspects, they're about universal states of mind, emotions, I guess, psychology. You said something that was really interesting. I couldn't think of the word. Psychic, something like psychic states of mind. So that implies subconscious. You don't always know what's going on in a thought or in a moment. But it doesn't last. It's very ephemeral. And you have to catch it and say, what was that? And examine it. So it's really a self-examination. My wife said, I was doing a lot of the early aspects was about the eyes open, the eyes of the mirror, the soul, etc. Sometimes my wife said, do something with your eyes closed. Why didn't I think of that? So I did that, and it's called, that unfortunately that piece is not here, but it's called Looking Inside Out. Because first I believe you have to look inward in order to truly, and be honest. If you're not looking, and you're not honestly looking at yourself, it's, that journey is not going to be, it's not going to take you very far. But in order to understand the external world and others and connect as a human being, is you have to be honest with yourself first. That's all.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. You're very, the questions were very sensitive, and I see you looked at the work, so I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.